If you talk to people in recovery circles, pretty much anywhere, there's this one thing you hear over and over again. It's almost universal, really. That single heavy regret, I wish I'd gotten help sooner. So today we're doing a deep dive into some material we've got here, particularly this document called The One Common Regret All Addicts Share.
Hmm.
We want to unpack why this hits so hard, whether it's heroin, alcohol, gambling, codependency, doesn't really matter the addiction.
Exactly. And the aim of this deep dive, especially for you listening, is to go a bit deeper than just naming the regret. We're digging into the layers, like the source material does. Why do people wait so long? What happens because of that delay? And I think crucially, how can this really powerful feeling, this regret, actually be flipped, turned from something heavy into motivation, into fuel for recovery?
Okay, let's get into that core regret then. The material's pretty clear. It's not just about finally being sober. It really zeroes in on the time, the time that slipped away before they reached out. Years maybe, months, just lost.
That's it. And it's fascinating how the source breaks down what that lost time really means. It's not just empty space. It's like years spent hiding behind denial, relationships getting frayed, or maybe completely breaking apart, opportunities just gone. And all those self-inflicted wounds, emotional, physical, things that looking back feel like they could have been avoided, the material really stresses the weight of that specific time.
Yeah, the weight of it. The document talks about this key turning point, a moment of clarity. That instant, the reality just hits. What does that actually look like based on the source?
Oh, it can be so many things. Sometimes it's something harsh, external, like waking up in jail or maybe finding yourself homeless. Other times it's quieter, more internal, like seeing real fear in your kid's eyes maybe. Or looking in the mirror and just not recognizing yourself anymore. That feeling of being a stranger to yourself. It's that sudden jarring moment when the whole story you've been telling yourself just collapses.
Okay, but here's what gets me. What the material points out, even after that kind of clarity, that moment of truth, people still often wait. They don't ask for help right away. If they see it, why the delay? What's going on there?
Well, this is where those really strong internal walls come up, the ones the source mentions. Fear, pride, and shame. Big ones. The idea here is that these feelings can be just overwhelming. Addiction makes them feel like they're uniquely broken somehow and have to fight this huge thing all by themselves. Shame says you don't deserve help. Pride says you should be strong enough to fix this alone. And fear it freezes you. Fear of the unknown, fear of life without the addiction.
Addiction really is a master manipulator, isn't it? The material goes into the actual stories, the lies people tell themselves to keep the behavior going. What are some of those common lies?
Yeah, there are a few really persistent ones that come up again and again in the source. The absolute classic. I can quit anytime I want. Total control, right? Then there's the minimizing. It's not that bad. Or I'm still holding down my job. And the one that really isolates people. I'm only hurting myself.
Right.
And the material shows these aren't just small excuses. They build this whole false reality, a fake truth that lets the destructive stuff keep going while hiding the real damage, the damage to themselves and everyone around them.
So that brings up something important the material distinguishes. It says many relationships can be fixed in recovery, but what is it that's actually lost for good?
That's the kicker, isn't it? That's the core of the regret.
Yeah.
The material points out, you can make amends, you can work to rebuild trust painstakingly, but the time itself, that's just gone forever. You can fix a relationship now, but you can't go back and be there for that birthday you missed. You can't unsay those awful things you said when you were deep in it. It's the sheer weight of those specific, unreclaimable moments, the experiences you can't get back, that really fuels that deep regret about not starting sooner.
Okay, so besides the internal stuff, the fear and shame, the material also lays out these external roadblocks, right? Things that physically or situationally stop people getting help. What are they?
Yeah, it lists several key things. First, there's just plain denial. Really believing the problem isn't bad enough to need actual, professional help. Then there's stigma, huge one. The fear of being judged, of being labeled an addict by everyone, family, friends, work, society. Then there's a real fear of change. Life without the addiction is a total unknown. That's terrifying for some people. What does that even look like day to day? Lack of support is another big barrier. Feeling completely alone, like nobody gets it or nobody cares enough to help you through it.
Right.
And then there's the practical stuff, financial constraints. Worrying about how to pay for treatment or therapy or even just taking time off work. It's a real obstacle for many. And the point the material makes is that understanding these specific barriers, naming them, it's not just theory. It's Absolutely vital. Because once you recognize what's holding someone back, you can actually start to, dismantle those barriers. It helps clear the way to getting help sooner.
And it's never just about the person struggling, is it? The source talks about this ripple effect. How does delaying treatment impact the people around them?
Oh, massively. The impact is just devastating often, and it spreads outwards. Loved ones go through hell, constant worry, heartbreak, feeling betrayed, living crisis to crisis. Relationships just crumble under the strain. Trust erodes, connection breaks down.
Yeah.
And the really tragic part is this often pushes the person with the addiction further into isolation, making it even harder to break free. So the longer the delay in getting help, the deeper those wounds go for absolutely everyone involved.
Okay, so if we zoom out a bit, looking at the bigger picture, the material paints, how can this huge, heavy feeling of regret, all that lost time, actually become something useful, something positive that drives change?
That's the real turning point the material explores. It's
Yeah.
about transforming that pain, using regret not as a place to get stuck in shame, but as fuel. It's about acknowledging what was lost, looking it square in the face, and letting that motivate you to reclaim the future.
And the material gets pretty concrete about the actions involved in making that shift, turning regret into a catalyst. What does it suggest?
It talks about a few key things. Actively seeking forgiveness is one. And that's not just asking others for it, which is hard enough. It's also doing the really tough work of forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for the last time, the choices made. That's huge. Then, sharing your story. Using your own difficult journey, the lessons you learned the hard way, to maybe help someone else who's struggling. Finding some meaning in the pain. And maybe most importantly, making a real solid commitment to recovery. Using the memory of that past suffering, that regret, as a powerful reason to stay on track, to build something new and better.
And support systems are critical here, right? The material really hammers home that this isn't a solo mission. What role do family, friends, support groups play?
Absolutely vital. The material is crystal clear. You don't do this alone. It highlights how these support systems work. They offer accountability, right?
Okay.
People who gently but firmly help you stay honest and stick to your goals. They give you encouragement, celebrating the small wins, being there when you stumble, offering strength.
Yeah.
And support groups especially offer this incredible shared wisdom. Connecting with people who've been there. They get it. They offer insights, understanding, and just hope based on their own lived experience.
The material mentions the 12-step program as one specific structured path people often take. It lists the steps. We don't need to go through every single one right now, but the overall journey they map out, it seems crucial in moving from regret towards redemption, as the source puts it.
Oh, absolutely. That framework is powerful for many. The steps essentially guide you through admitting you can't do it alone, finding strength somewhere beyond yourself. Doing that really honest inventory of your past actions, steps 4 and 10 are big there. Then directly dealing with the harm done to others, steps 8 and 9, the whole amends process.
Right, making amends.
Yeah. And then, crucially, step 12, finding purpose by helping others who are still struggling. It's a structured way to face the past, clean up the present, and build a future based on helping others and staying connected.
And the stories of redemption in the material, they really bring this to life, don't they? Show that it's not just a theory. Can you share those examples again?
Yes, they're quite powerful. The material talks about Sarah. She battled alcoholism for 10 years, missed huge things like her daughter's graduation, her parents' 50th anniversary, carried enormous guilt. But in recovery, she threw herself into rebuilding those relationships and found purpose, started a support group. Now she mentors other women, uses her own painful past to help them find their way.
Ah.
Then there's James, heroin addiction, ended up homeless, finally got help, and eventually he actually became a counselor. Uses his own firsthand experience, everything he learned from hitting rock bottom, to connect with and guide others trying to get clean.
Yeah.
These stories really drive home the point. The regret over lost time is real, it's heavy, but the potential for real deep transformation, even after years and years of delay, that's just as real.
Okay, so bringing all these pieces from the material together, the lost time, the barriers, the lies, the path forward, what does it all mean for actually moving forward? That regret can feel so overwhelming, like it could just paralyze you. But the material says it doesn't have to. How do you navigate that?
It seems to boil down to a kind of three-pronged approach. First, acknowledging the past, really accepting what happened, the mistakes made, but crucially, not letting that history define who you are now.
Right, acceptance, not wallowing.
Exactly. Second, committing completely to the present. Recovery happens today. It's about taking those positive steps right now, this hour, this day, one day at a time, as they say. And third, actively building towards the future, setting goals, imagining what life looks like beyond addiction, and working towards that vision. Using the past not as an anchor, but as a reminder of what you're moving away from and what you're striving for.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe connecting this back to you, the listener. These ideas, drawn from understanding this really common regret in addiction, they might hold lessons for all of us, right? Thinking about that weight of delayed action and seeing how that pain can actually be turned into fuel. How might that apply to other areas in your own life? Places where maybe deep down you know a change is needed, but perhaps you've been putting it off.
So wrapping this deep dive up, the main takeaway from this material seems to be that this incredibly common regret, wishing you'd sought help sooner, it comes from a very real place of lost time, lost connections. It's a heavy thing. But by really getting why those delays happen, understanding the barriers, and seeing there are paths forward, like the ones we've discussed, there's this powerful chance to turn that regret into action, into recovery, into rebuilding.
Yeah, the message from the source feels pretty clear. You can't rewrite history. The past is the past. But the power to change, to rebuild, maybe make amends, and definitely forge a new direction. That power is absolutely in the present moment and in the future you choose to build, especially with support and real commitment.
So maybe a final thought for you to chew on, building on what we've explored in the material, considering just how heavy this specific regret is for so many. What might that teach all of us about the potential cost of delaying action in any part of our lives where we have that nagging feeling deep down that a change is really needed?